Hey, everybody. This is What Drives Us, episode number 321. Did you guys have 321 contact when you were growing up on PBS? That is all I can think of.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, all right. Anyway, it is May the 29th, Wednesday, 2019, and I am your host this week, Tony Schaefer. And now I have the 321 contact theme running through my head. Please Google it. It was actually a really good show, and I lived on it as a kid. But anyway, we are going to begin this week's journey into advanced technology, mobility, and sustainable energy. And I want to run through the topics we are going to go through this week. This is something that Russell and I have talked about prefacing, so you all know where we're going and how we're going to get there. We're going to start talking about some Tesla stock, and then we're going to talk about GM and over-the-air updates. Maybe Evan's supposed to do that. We'll see if he joins us. It looks like the Chevy Bolt is getting a big brother, or maybe it's being reincarnated. I'm not sure how that's coming. Speaking of dead cars, Russell is going to talk about good cars to die in. Mark's going to talk about the Rivian. And I actually want to talk about the price of lithium in China, not rice. We're moving on. This is the 2019. Casey's going to talk about Gigafactory 2. Russell about Tesla Model Y. And if there's time, I want to talk about a pretty big development in EVs in general. So those are the topics we hope to get through this week. And I'm fortunately not alone in this. You can see the panel that we have. And I'm going to start with my co-host, Mr. Russell Frost.
Me? Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
That's it?
All I got. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So, I'm going to move up north to the founder of the Waterloo Region Voltec and our Chevy Volt and plug-in enthusiast Model 3 driver, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got hubcaps. We've got hubcaps, and we got a lot of them. That joke never gets old, does it, Russell?
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, it delights me every time.
Come on down to Crazy Eddie's hubcaps.
Crazy Eddie hubcaps. Emporium. Absolutely. Yes. Exactly. Welcome to the show, people.
And then I'm going to throw it off to Casey, the alt champion for a long time, starting at cleanmpg.com. You can find him at Casey Green, all one word. On YouTube, he is Mr. Casey Green.
That's me. So right now, my autopilot computer is on vacation, and I've got a service scheduled for Friday. So we'll see what happens. Thankfully, it didn't go.
Did you give it the time off to do this?
No,
vacation?
No, this sucker stole it.
Okay.
So hopefully, or thankfully, it didn't do it till after my road trip to see my sister's wedding. Because that would have been miserable. You have no cruise control. Your lights are not. Your lights become on, and so if you use the high beam auto function, you are now blinding everybody. The wipers go away. The speed limits are no longer detected. It gives you a healthy appreciation for what the car can do.
Speaking of functioning Teslas, Russell, why don't you talk to us about Tesla's stock?
Casey's example is so rich in detail. You know what? So way back in the old days, Patrick coined the beginning of the show because it just always seemed to be that way. Russell's rant, because I would just get on and rant for like 5 or 10 minutes. And this, my apologies in advance, everyone. That's kind of where we're going here. But we're going to start at a good place. Oh my God, it's Paul Guzik.
Hey, folks. Sorry, my stupid Google was not happening, so finally got
stupid
it.
Google.
You're still trying to connect from last week, aren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Problems with Google are something we understand, Mr. Guzik.
Hey, Paul, sidebar. Do you need a hubcap?
For a Tesla?
I got black ones.
All those poor Model 3 owners in Kitchener Waterloo keep coming out to their car going, some asshole stole my hubcap.
That's going to be the next video. I know it.
And I'm the idiot that's broadcasting this live.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mad Mark's
CMP will be on Mark's door here any minute.
exactly. Mad Mark's slightly used hero wheel hubcaps. Well, so back to my little rant here. First, orange is one of my favorite colors. And, I'm a fat guy. I don't really look that good in orange. My shape does not go with the color, but I still love it. And even more, so one of the joys about being in this community, this alt car, EVs, whatever you want to call it, community, are the wonderful people that I've met over the years. And one of the most wonderful people that I've had the pleasure to meet and get to know and become friends with is a young lady named Chelsea Sexton. Chelsea was recently down in New Zealand for a month doing, wait for it. It's the great EV. You know what? Maybe I should just bring the camera down here.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. There we go. This is the great EV road trip for the Better New Zealand Trust for 2019. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, electric vehicles are the future. Guess who brought this shirt back for me in her luggage from freaking New Zealand?
Was it
She's
Chelsea?
the best.
Yeah, Chelsea. So, Chels, love you so much. Thank you. And I'm wearing this shirt proudly. Go, all of our Kiwi friends. And thanks for picking my favorite color for the shirt. Now, I have sort of an omnibus topic. And that means I'm going to cover more than one subject in a fairly brief rant. But let's talk Tesla.
Talk about buses.
Yeah, well, that's part of our mission too. Tesla did a whole bunch of fun and kind of crazy stuff this week. Anybody know what the stock is at today?
Wait,
Still
let me check.
thankfully higher than I bought it at.
Yeah,
All right.
there you go.
Wait,
That's the best news you could get. Oh, thank you, Tony. 189, baby, is what it closed at today. Tesla is sunk. How
many tens of billions of market cap have they lost?
Ooh, a lot.
A lot. Yeah, a lot. You know what? The only relevant thing, stock prices are kind of nonsensical in a sense. Tesla's very much has always been nonsensical. And thank you, Tony. Look at that. Ouch, that hurts. If you bought stock when Elon said,
Funding secured.
We're going private at 420. Your stock would now be worth half of what you paid for it. And I don't take pleasure in that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to see Tesla the company sink under the bubbling tar of the La Brea tar pits. Their CEO, maybe. I think maybe his time is over, but that's just my opinion. But I still support Tesla's mission, maybe even more than Tesla supports it. Let's talk about something else really dumb that happened. Anybody see that underground race between a Model X and a car?
I saw the link for it, but I didn't click.
Model 3, but
yeah, you know what? There's a race. A car through the tunnel. It allegedly goes about 127 miles an hour, and a car stuck on the street in traffic. And hey, what a surprise. The car in the tunnel wins the race. I'm going to spoil it for you. Problem is, of course, but that's one car with how many people in it? Much to my delight, San Francisco's BART system replied that their actually underground tunnel carries 2 orders of magnitude greater than Elon's tunnel can carry. Elon reposted, of course, because he's a genius, with that he could dig hundreds of tunnels. And I'm just going to leave it there. Astronomers were sort of up in arms this week about Starlink. Starlink launched its first 60 satellites, deployed them, and there's a great deal of concern about how this is going to affect astronomers, people that use big telescopes and whatnot with all these things in low Earth orbit, and just the visual change that might happen in the night sky. Now, to be clear, most people living in most cities, the light pollution is going to wash this out anyway. Okay, this is more for people who are really trying to see the stars that it matters. Now, Is this exclusively the province, the fault, the blame to Starlink and SpaceX? No, of course not. There are other companies planning to do the same thing. What we should be having is a discussion on how we're going to fill this low Earth orbit space. We're not having that discussion because it's going to bring magical internet to every corner of the world for free.
Free.
Finally, my little Tesla rant. It wasn't announced. It sort of leaked that, as it turns out, the Model Y that is so successful, Tesla still hasn't disclosed pre-order numbers on it, is probably going to be made in Fremont. As opposed to the factory in Sparks, Nevada. There was some discussion as to whether that, and certainly Tesla could change their mind, but it looks like they're angling towards making it Fremont. Why? Because some of the tours lately and going forward have already been notified that they won't get to see all of the factory, that they are doing some changes, and that stuff is off limits. So the speculation is they're making room, they're combining S and X into one line, and they're making room to build a Y line. That's all I got for my hold my breath.
Is this a real building or
is that a picture of the Starlink?
Yep.
Yeah. I've seen lots of pictures like that. And yeah, I mean, on one hand it's cool, and on the other hand it's like, but I like the stars.
Can anybody read Morse code? I wonder if you read that, if there's a hidden message like fuck you, Elon, or something.
Buy Tesla stock now.
I think it's Braille.
Like F you Bezos than F you Elon.
Oh,
Coming from Elon's company,
Or maybe someone hacked it. So.
Oh, I hope not. But yeah.
So that's all I got on Tesla. And rather than taking over the whole show with like 18 stories, crammed it into one rant-filled little bit, I turn it over to you guys if you have some comments, and then we can move on to something else fun.
I disagree with a lot of that. Moving on.
I respect your brevity, sir.
And that was Russell's Tesla rant.
That was a fabulous rebuttal, Casey. That was great.
All right.
I got away with that bullshit. That's all I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And that pretty much summarizes the entire Tesla Life show this week, episode 101. So head over to youtube.com/the Tesla Life
show
to
watch episode 101 and make sure you subscribe.
In much more detail, of course.
Right. Much less brevity. Yep. All right. So, I want to talk about something that was spotted, and this actually turns out was last week, but unfortunately we couldn't have last week's show. It turns out that some years ago, GM was talking about coming out with additional EVs. They had said that when they were cutting the Volt and cutting down their portfolio, that they were going to bring more EVs to the market. And it looks like what is this? An EUV. They're calling it an EUV, and we can only assume that stands for an electric utility vehicle. It's allegedly, we don't know anything about it, right? So this is just a mule that has been driving around, and it's heavily camouflaged, as you can see from the pictures that Russell's nice enough.
That's not the premier package, Tony?
You know what? I do think that the tarp comes extra.
That's called a custom wrap.
Yes, there it is. None of this highfalutin vinyl. This is
a wrap for your wrap.
Yeah. The thought is that this is built on a very similar, if not the same, Chevy Bolt platform, but in more of a utility vehicle stance. That's it. We don't know anything about it. It does look bulbous. And I don't know that I fully agree with this whole thing of taking a sedan platform and trying to morph it into some sort of utility vehicle that is half sedan, half EV, UV, and 100% non-functional.
That's
Station
what
Wagon
America wants.
Station Wagon 2.0.
It kind of is.
No,
but I mean, and not even in a good way, because I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up with a station wagon. At least it was functional, and the seats faced backwards in the back, and that was awesome.
And kids got asphyxiated from the fumes coming in through the window.
I'm perfectly fine, thank you.
Yeah, didn't hurt my brain none.
Yeah, no, I didn't. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, this is sort of a story that's a non-story. We don't know any details, but it's one of those, give it a year and a half, maybe 2020, 2021, GM is going to show this for real, and we're going to find out what they've been up to after having killed the Volt.
Resident GM expert that follows our show, Eric Stevens, talked a little bit about this particular photo and indicated that the size-wise, and I know Eric himself owns a Bolt EV already, he had indicated that it's not that much bigger than the current Bolt, whatever this thing is. And it's very similar size-wise. So when we start saying it's a different type of utility vehicle, size-wise, it really looks the same. So maybe there's some internal components they're using as a mule type system. They're testing other things. So like we said, we don't really have any of the information here, but I thought Eric's comments were interesting, knowing that he does have a Bolt and has driven it for a few years.
Yeah, when you compare it to that Jeep Compass that's running around in the background, or Renegade, Liberty, whatever, the small Jeep that's in the background, you can see what they consider to be a comparable vehicle. And it's fractionally bigger than the Bolt.
Well, and the Renegade, isn't that the one that's like a Fiat 500 with a
Yes.
wheelbase?
Yes,
It is. It's the same
it is.
car.
Is it?
Oh
Yeah,
my God, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either.
It's the cheapest four-wheel drive Jeep you can buy.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, and somebody else, and I don't want to do, Eric's observation is wonderful. And I completely agree. It really looks like a Bolt. It doesn't look that much bigger. This is sort of that Model 3, Model Y relationship. I
Mhm.
mean, the Model Y, okay, yeah,
But it's got a hatchback instead of a trunk. That will make a huge difference.
Okay. I
Yeah.
have been driving the Lexus UX 250H for the last 4 days now, maybe 5.
is that a complaint?
Yes, it is, because it's built on the same TNGA platform that my Prius Prime is on. So take a car take the Prius and make a utility vehicle out of it, and you think, that would be an interesting car.
Prius V.
Interesting is an interesting. No, it's not even as good as the Prius V.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, interesting is what you say when you meet someone who faked their Tinder profile. This is not a good car to drive. It's claustrophobic.
Wow.
Cargo space is non-existent. I make the quip in the video, spoiler alert, and I am so using this clip. I say something to the effect of, I'm not saying there's no legroom in the back seat, but if Forrest Gump owned this car, Captain Dan would be comfortable in the back seat.
Oh man!
Wow.
That's how tiny and petite and unpractical this car really is. The only good thing I can say about the car, I can get 55 miles per gallon out of that hybrid. So it's actually a kick-ass hybrid, and I had to put it in sport mode and gun it today, so it actually has some guts. But functionally, it's not a functional car. So taking something like this built on a Bolt, just a little bigger than a Bolt, and trying to make a functional UV out of it, it's not. And I hate that manufacturers are going this way.
So,
I'm kind of speechless you're that upset about it.
so the Volt MP5 I thought was a great concept, and it was a shame that they canceled it. It seems that they could have done that as a pure EV.
There's many things GM could have done, and they have not done it.
Are we going to talk about their financial rumor or no?
Well, that wasn't on the slate, but if we can get to it quickly.
Okay, so there's rumor going around that they want to merge with Ford.
Oh my gosh!
Did you just get this rumor?
I'm sorry.
Wait,
Who wants to merge with Ford?
Ford and GM.
Ford and GM are going to merge.
That's what it said. And this came after the Renault and
FCA.
whoever. Yeah, FCA.
Mhm.
Fiat.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's probably just something they discussed and then probably threw away, but it came from a reputable source. So I was like, that's interesting.
I'm actually hoping that the Renault thing goes, because I'd love to be able to buy a Zoe here in the United States.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
the Renegade is made by Fiat, I believe.
Yeah.
You're really pushing that Renegade, aren't you, Paul?
I'm going to pass on the Renegade, Paul.
Yeah.
I owned one Jeep. That was enough.
Well, at least the real Jeeps were like substantial cars, but the Renegade is literally a Fiat 500. I mean, it's
Get you a Twizy with no doors.
there you go. Well, I want to kick it over to Mark, who, yes, as a Volt owner, is talking about an article from the Detroit Free Press.
This is the GM rumor?
Not the rumor, the exponential jump.
This is the over-the-air update,
which GM just invented, by the way.
Well, they said that. No, they didn't. They didn't say they invented it. But GM has announced that they're going to have some over-the-air update capabilities by, what was it, 2023?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, that's. I don't know if you should be. I don't know if you should be advertising that. Maybe you should have left the date out of it. But they're talking about moving into the over-the-air update arena. As we know, the current leader of that would be Tesla, who provides over-the-air updates for everything on their vehicle, almost everything. And GM is now recognizing that, you know what, maybe it's better that people, instead of going to the dealership and getting something installed, maybe we could just send it to them in their garage. And it could connect to their own Wi-Fi network and put it onto the car remotely. That would be a great idea. Yes, it would be a great idea, because Tesla's really got that down pat, and people love the over-the-air update. Also, not having to wait for another model year to get updated software is a huge plus that Tesla owners enjoy. And GM is thinking, again, they haven't announced everything that they plan to do with this, or how often it will be used, or how often it will be updated. But they're starting to say that, yes, we want to follow the over-the-air update leader and push this software out to our customers at home. So
and it can save them tremendous amounts of money, not just make it easier for the consumer. I mean, if there's a bug fix that they have to distribute, instead of having everybody come into the dealer, they could just push it out to the cars, right?
Right, because they're paying those dealers for that extra work too, right? So
and they rush stuff out, and there's mistakes, and they've got to be reflashed and updated, and so it's the future.
It is the future, Paul. You're absolutely correct, and certainly I know I enjoy it with what I have with my Model 3.
See, exactly. It's not the future. It's 5 or 7 years in the past.
Well, for Tesla owners, but Toyota doesn't do it.
But technology is not the future. For GM, it's the distant future. And I have to say, I was laughing as I was reading this article. This is the enabler for the next generation of good stuff. It's an exponential jump. Okay, what?
But Tony, they are talking about themselves too, right?
Right.
So coming from a group that doesn't do this at all, or extremely limited, the only thing they update is maybe the maps. This is a quantum leap for a company like that.
But when you have to write a paragraph that says a terabyte is 1 trillion bytes of data. A study in 2000 estimated the U.S. Library of Congress's print collection of 25 million books at the time consisted of about 10 terabytes. Who are you writing this article for? You have to convert a terabyte into...
First of all, for someone in the year 2000.
Yes. So right there, they're quoting 19-year-old data.
Yeah. I mean, I have 24 terabyte hard drive array right here. It's sitting right there. So 10 terabytes is not all that impressive.
It was in 2000.
Also has a bootleg copy of the Library of Congress.
Man, I wish that would be. That'd be awesome.
Wow. Oh, all right. So Now, speaking of Russell and happy feel-good thoughts, why don't you tell us a few things about some of the most dangerous cars in the United States?
As I put it on the news schedule, the best cars to die in. ICCars.com.
That's the show title. Best cars to die in.
Best cars to die in. Maybe write that down, chat room. Let me know what you think. You know, I mean, I'm not going to make light of this, of course, but obviously there are cars that are more dangerous than others. One overall thing that ICCars came up with was looking at this data, and this comes from a 2013 to 2017 analysis. It's a U.S. fatality analysis reporting system. This is more than 25 million used cars from the same model years to determine vehicles that are most often involved in fatal accidents. Okay, there are 14 models, and the most dangerous cars are compacts and subcompacts. Now, before I go into that, excuse me for ranting for just a second, but some of these cars are not dangerous in and of themselves. Some of these cars are dangerous or more deadly because they're small, and most everything else on the road is this big hulking tanks. And it's basic physics that when the big hulking tank hits the little tiny thing, usually the little tiny thing gets crushed more. If everything were the size of these cars, we would see, I mean, obviously we would see a much more honest appraisal, I think, small car versus small car, of how dangerous these vehicles are. So keep that in mind, that there's nothing inherently dangerous about subcompacts to a point, but there are basic physics involved. Okay. Anyway, number one, Mitsubishi Mirage, 10.2 fatal accidents per billion vehicle miles driven. I don't know if any of you have been in the Mitsubishi Mirage. I kind of like the Outlander PHEV, but yeah, the Mitsubishi.
Isn't the Mirage like a tin can? It's like the cheapest car in America.
I actually think it's actually made out of layers of tinfoil over paper mache. And they all smell weird. I don't get it. Every Mirage that I've ever been in,
it's used tinfoil they use from.
It's not good. Now, here's a surprise. What's number two, kids? The Chevrolet Corvette.
That's because the douchebag driver's like punching it.
It's small. It's plastic.
It is.
It's low to the ground.
And they certainly don't designate between multi-vehicle accidents and single-vehicle accidents.
At what speed the car was traveling when it died. The owner died. I bet you the Corvette guys were all going like 100 miles an hour or something stupid.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Tony's put the list up, so I'm going to read through it a little more quickly, and we'll present Tony so that you can read the list while I go through it. The Honda Fit at 7.7, the Kia Forte, the Chevrolet Spark, the Subaru BRZ, the Nissan 370Z, small two-seater sports car, driven by people who want to drive the living hell out of that car. And sadly, they do at 6.2 fatal accidents per billion vehicle miles. The Nissan Versa, the Kia Rio, the Dodge Challenger, not really a compact car. I guess that falls into the
same as the Corvette, though.
Yeah. Kia Soul, the Hyundai Veloster Turbo, and the Nissan
Camaro.
Versa. Oh, I'm sorry. And the Chevrolet Camaro.
Again,
another speed.
Group that in with the Corvette and the Challenger.
They were racing the Challenger owners.
People who aren't making good driving decisions in these cars. If fatal accident rates by passenger car size, of course, the subcompact comes in the highest, compact, average for all cars, and then midsize and large. Wow, look at that. It goes from smallest to biggest. Again, I think that's basic physics.
This is not an endorsement to please run out and buy the biggest, hugest thing you possibly can find. No, not an endorsement for that.
Too late.
Yeah, and it might be too late. You're right.
No, I meant for me. It was my badass car.
Yeah, the American public has taken this to heart, and they're like, we want the biggest.
A flip side report, like the safest cars?
Well, that's very interesting that you say that.
You just read the chart from the bottom up, and that's
No,
I know what you mean, Paul, and I don't think there is.
Not this. This really was looking at fatalities. It doesn't. It did not have a.
This was the sunshine report here.
Yeah, this is the feel good report. So
right, but it'd be interesting if they rolled it out to like 100 cars instead of 10.
Right,
Was
right. You can read the bottom. I mean, there's. If you read through this whole story, there's a lot of things that you don't see.
Oh, no, it says don't buy a Chevy Spark if you live in Atlanta.
Atlanta or Chicago. So if you're in Atlanta or Chicago and you see a Chevy Spark next to you, you should change lanes.
If you're in the Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, Central Valley, California thing, the Dodge Challenger is the car to avoid.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of this is obvious, and a lot of this is sad, and obviously none of these
hybrid in New York.
I know. Right?
Makes sense.
New York, the Camry hybrid.
Right?
Taxis. Camry hybrid.
Ooh, maybe you're right. Taxis. Good call.
Interesting.
Good call.
Yeah, there's only 2 Toyotas on this list. The Tacoma is on the truck list towards the bottom, and that Camry hybrid.
Huh.
Why is the Jeep Wrangler so dangerous in Orlando and Daytona Beach?
Tourists renting open top Jeeps
and no
maybe.
seatbelts.
And drinking while because they're on vacation.
Maybe.
Yeah, very much so. The car you don't want in LA, that Mitsubishi Mirage, because So that's all I got on that.
It is an extremely interesting article, and they have links to other lists on IC cars. They do a lot of interesting reporting like this. I recommend it. If you have time to kill, go out to www.iccars.com and just kind of navigate around. It's actually a really interesting website.
And it's ICE cars, not IC like internal combustion.
Oh yeah, good call. Right, I didn't even think of IC for. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, so Mark, please tell us about Rivian.
Rivian went to a recent outdoor show, they call it, and debuted or introduced a new idea that they have with their vehicle. And Rivian has positioned themselves to be in the outdoor market with their vehicles for adventurous type clients. And in the Gear Hub or Gear
Tunnel,
Gear Tunnel? Okay, they mocked up this particular stove system that would connect to the internal battery to power it, and it would slide out of the gear tunnel for use when you're camping, which I thought was extremely cool. A lot of people love the idea. This was just
tunnel was for running drugs.
Yeah, that's another tunnel, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular tunnel will allow us to cook instead. So that was great, Paul. That was good. That was good. We gotta get a show title out of that one. But this particular counter workspace and stove combination is fabulous for campers. That they can roll it out, perform their cooking, and then roll it back in for storage away from taking up camper space. Although I have to say that the pictured tent in this, I don't know. Does that make sense that you're camping on top of your truck?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
That's a common thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of them have them on the roof of the truck.
Because they're not only. It's not even.
It's harder for the bears to get up.
I would think it would be easier for the bears to get at you. But I find it interesting that it's above the bed. It's not in the bed. It's on rails above the bed.
Waking up in soggy ground if it rains.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Well, you can direct the rain around or something with just if it rains, then I sleep inside. I don't know, but I see that bed as wasted space. I would think that
there's storage for supplies and food and everything else underneath it.
Yeah. All right,
that's what the bears are after.
Our friend and former panelist, Justin Case, has a very similar rig on his truck and loves it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. can't argue with Justin.
When it comes to outdoors and trucks, I mean, Justin's
Yeah.
all over the place.
Right now, and
that is quite the camp kitchen there.
The Rivian truck is amazing. That's all I'm going to say. I love it.
Yeah.
I just hope that the stove doesn't stop working because you drained all the juice. I'm sorry, honey. The battery for the stove
Making an egg today, you can't get home.
Who left the stove on all night again?
Yeah, I was just telling David that I hope that they used induction elements, because then it doesn't use a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
Well, they did show.
electric heat
I think those would be
efficient.
induction elements, because it was like a glass top in the example. Again, this is just a demo. It isn't a really working stove at this point.
This is all styrofoam.
Yeah, it's all fake at this point. But it is a concept that they thought would make sense, and it certainly does make sense. I'm sure they could sell the heck out of this to the audience that they're selling the truck to. So. Hopefully that it comes through for production. It'd be interesting to see it in real life. But
it would be cool to see.
Very cool idea.
Yeah,
we just pack the tent and the stove in the truck and let's roll.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
it's a great option. Yeah,
I like the Rivian products. They're phenomenal.
Well, unlike the current RVs that fire up their generators to, charge their batteries in the middle of the campsite at 5 a.m. So.
Yeah. Yay! Get gas fumes in my tent. Oh, that's so lovely.
Mm-hmm. I believe you guys have seen the pictures. The smartest way to camp actually is to back 2 trucks up to each other, and then you extend the tent across both beds. And if it gets cold, you can just run the trucks for warmth.
And when they find the bodies in the morning,
and have the exhaust come into the tent.
Is it? So who has the button for the "Don't try this at home"? Is that flashing on the screen right now?
Exactly. Don't do this.
You can obviously tell that Tony doesn't camp all that much.
Oh boy! All right,
we're gonna have to teach children not to run cars indoors in the future.
Yes. That is
at least
true.
Ice cars.
Yeah. So if you want to read all of the news that we're reading and none of our bad advice, be sure to check us out online. If you make sure that you have subscribed to our Facebook page, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Leave us comments and suggest news items just right there on the page, or just like it and follow us. We do, by the way, glean some of our news articles from suggestions, and we appreciate all those. And if you use Flipboard as a news aggregator, be sure to subscribe to the What Drives Us magazine. And with that, I want to move on to our friends in China.
Yay, friends in China.
Yeah, now it's not often that we get to reference the South China Morning Post, and yet here we are. Yes. So once again, our friends at the South China Morning Post, we're close friends.
They're kind of like
these
China's equivalent of the New York Times.
I have no idea.
Probably a lot better.
Yeah.
Possibly. Now they are a little biased, of course, but I have seen this in other, more reputable news sources, I suppose. Not to demean the South China Morning Post, but the news is that in China they have quote unquote discovered a breakthrough that leads to record low costs of essential battery ingredient, which is, of course, lithium. And according to the article, they have been able to lower the cost of extracting lithium to a record low US $2,180 per ton. This is compared to the current method, which on the low end is $12,000 US dollars and all the way up to $20,000 US dollars. So this is 1/10 the current cost. Now you might be saying, what are they doing that's so different? Well, it turns out that mining lithium, they pretty much scrape it out of the ground. And what happens is it's got a lot of other minerals that bind to it naturally. So it's not the mining process itself, it's the extraction and separation and purification process. And they say that they have found a method to separate the lithium that is it's multiple steps, of course, but according to them, the steps are very inexpensive. And you can imagine what this means when we have electric vehicles where the battery is a third. What is like a third the cost of the car? Does that sound right? That came to mind.
It could
So
be.
I'm just throwing that out. Yeah, it could be a third the price of the car. Well, now we're looking at if the battery goes down 90%, we could potentially be seeing more mass affordable electric vehicles. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. That's a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
Actually, what's more impressive about this article, Tony, is in Shenzhen, it says 99% of the 21,000 taxis are now powered by electricity.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, like New York City has like 13,500 yellow cabs. Imagine if 99% of them were EVs.
Well, and they're getting the Camry hybrids off the road as fast as possible.
That's right. But here's China's kicking the U.S.'s ass on electrification of taxis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing with these batteries is the lithium is not that large of a component of them anymore.
That's true. Like a ton of lithium builds a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then,
but still, even that, and they were talking about is it borax? What was the other essential element? Cobalt. Yeah, cobalt. Yeah,
Cobalt's the crunch
that one's
mineral.
hard.
Yeah. But that one is, Tesla's got that down to a record low amount of cobalt per battery.
They're aiming for 0.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So we're really looking at bringing the cost of new batteries down by an amazingly significant amount. And that segues me into another topic around the same article.
Uh-oh.
So I am co-chair of my company's sustainability and green initiative group for U.S. So I study and I spout a whole bunch of sustainability statistics. So several years ago, the statistic came out that said that the United States' entire fleet of 747s could be built 13 times on the amount of aluminum that's thrown into landfills and not recycled every single year. One of the reasons is that mining new aluminum is inexpensive. So what happens when the cost of new batteries becomes less expensive than the cost of recycling existing batteries? That's a concern that we need to seriously think about, because I hear it all the time when people talk about how dirty it is to create the batteries and how the batteries are thrown in landfills. And I have to tell them and reassure them that there's recycling programs and they're reclaimed and they're reused. But if we lower the cost so much that it's cheaper to just build new ones and throw away the old ones, I can't make that argument any longer.
Yeah, that is definitely something that we should grapple with now, as opposed to wait till the volume is out there that EVs are replacing regular cars in volume. Because you're right, we don't want this stuff going to landfills. We have to have recycle programs in place. Otherwise, you're right. It has to almost be made illegal that you can't dump this stuff into landfills. Regulation would have to be required, but we don't want that at all.
So what was our solution with lead batteries? They're like 92, 98% recycled, something ridiculous.
I think
something like that.
98 or higher. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that was driven through the manufacturers. So if someone did scrap a car or trade it into the manufacturer, then they reclaimed it themselves. And I think they even put a bounty on the batteries in order to get them back.
Even Joe Consumer, if you go buy a lead acid battery at your neighborhood auto parts store, there's typically a $15 to $20 core fee that if you return the old battery, they'll give you back. So for $15 or $20, you're going to bring back the old battery.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's that financial incentive.
Right. Mm-hmm. And Toyota hybrid batteries. When I buy a battery from Toyota to put into a customer car, they charge me a $1,350 core charge. If I do not send them back a used hybrid battery, it costs me $1,350. So guess what? I send them all back. Because it's a financial incentive to do that.
Yeah.
So the RECORE is something that will push people incentive-wise, dollar-wise, to do that.
Yeah, all I got to do is say, if you buy a battery, you've got to pay a deposit, and you'll get that back when you return the dead one.
So that's easy to do with a battery, a lead acid battery that's 30 or 40 pounds, or a hybrid battery that's even more heavy. You know what I mean? Because there's more money. Now, what if I have a fistful of AA's?
Yeah, that's tough.
Well,
Yeah,
right. They're designed and built to be thrown away, the AA's, but
unfortunately, right. And we have programs at work. You bring in your batteries, and then we have bins by the doorways. People can throw in their dead batteries, and we have an aggressive recycling program. But not everyone does that, and a lot of people just chuck them.
Yeah.
But if they gave you $1 for every one you returned,
bingo, you'd make damn sure that you were getting that buck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or at least get a whole bucket of it.
Yeah. $20. I mean, even if the cost per battery went up $0.25 and you got that $0.25 back, you took it back to a store, whether it's one of these big box stores or whatever.
Yeah,
you turned them in, they counted them, and they give you a $0.25 per battery.
Yeah.
Something. But the thing is, we're running out of places to bury and ship our trash. And I saw, is it Malaysia now that's returning barges full of trash back to the United States because they just don't want it anymore? We've literally been shipping barges of trash to other countries just to get it out of our country.
China for sure.
Yeah.
And the Philippines, I think they're sending it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, we're not even thinking about this. We need to start thinking about this. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this article, not just the breakthrough of the cheap lithium, because that's awesome, but how many downsides have come off the heels of celebrations of advancement? And I want to make sure we keep an eye on the dark side of advancement. Not as a bummer, but just to make sure that we're fully aware. Wow, I kind of killed the mood, didn't I?
No,
Well, I think some kind of combination of deposits and incentivizing people financially to recycle instead of just making them feel guilty. Like I know in British Columbia, if you buy a bottle of Tide, one of those plastic jugs, there's a 30-cent deposit on the container. And very few of those Tide containers end up in landfill because they're worth 30 cents. And the homeless people will go through the trash on the street and take them out and sell them.
I know when I was in college, we used to buy bottles by the case because we got $1 back every time we returned them.
Yeah.
So we only paid full price for the first one, and every other case after that was $1 off.
There's college drinking logic. Nice.
Yes.
Yes.
But you were recycling them, and you wouldn't throw them in the trash because there was money there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I want to move on to Casey talking about Supercharger 3.
So Russell's probably going to handle half of the story. But allegedly, Tesla is meeting their New York hiring requirements at not just at Giga 2, but also in the state of New York. So it looks like they've combined a couple facilities to meet their numbers. But what's exciting is that Gigafactory 2 is now also manufacturing the Supercharger version 3 equipment. So it looks like they might be getting ready for their wide rollout in the nation, which is phenomenal. And go ahead, Russell.
I got nothing.
Really?
You roll with it, my man. Roll with it.
Well, Russell was impressed with how many people they magically got to meet their requirement when just weeks ago they were not meeting their number, allegedly.
Well, I think the argument here was that the thought of the Buffalo factory was not even close to meeting the employee requirement, and then magically they were allowed to include every employee in the state of New York. which previously didn't calculate into the formula. That just seemed that was the weirdness going on, fudging the numbers.
It did look that way for sure.
Yeah. But if it keeps them in business, if it helps them get profitable, if it helps them make product, hopefully we will all benefit from this eventually.
And I'll just add, here's the thing. Look at Elon Musk's duplicitousness, Tesla's manipulation of a stupid Florida incentive or a stupid New York incentive that they really never should have gotten isn't the issue that really irritates me at base. What really irritates me at base is the stuff that was planned to do in Buffalo was super important to everybody.
Yes.
Super important to get solar into houses, to build batteries, to do all this stuff. And instead of doing that, they fucked it up and haven't done it. That's what irritates me.
Yeah.
So the people of New York lose $400 million. Whatever.
No, I can totally see that. How many times have we argued that, what should have been done or should have been done better wasn't, and it would have been better for all of us, everyone, in civilization in the whole. Yeah.
Had they handled this transition more competently, and had they not dialed everything back to focus on whatever they were focused on, and just kept turning out the panels and kept selling them and getting them installed, that factory would have been at 100% operation, and we'd have a lot more gigawatt hours of solar deployed than we see today.
And I wouldn't be bitching about Tesla abandoning its mission.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully. We've said it so many times on this show. We would love to see more and more houses with Tesla solar roofs. We would just love to see it. So bring it to market, build it, do it.
Well, I mean, even if they had just done the regular panels, done a lot more of them instead of, I mean, you can still do the solar roof at the glacial pace it's running at, but the retrofit panels are very important. Without them, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, it was the three-pronged dream, right? Solar panel, home storage, electric car.
Right.
And that's what we want. And that's why Russell and all of us get a little perturbed when something stands in the way and we don't realize that dream, because we all want it really badly.
Yeah, these should be Tesla panels on my house, not LG and Solyndra, or not Solyndra, but some other company that went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be Tesla panels talking to Tesla Powerwall, talking to Tesla cars.
Yeah, I mean, I push for every American company that makes solar panels, and failing that, I push for anybody that's going to put solar panels on their house, because that's a step in the right direction. Not just Tesla, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the technology is what we need. We'll just reduce our carbon requirements and make ourselves more stable and more energy independent. I mean, look at what Europe is able to do with their wind and their solar and their geothermal. How many times has the UK gone off coal in the past year, 2 years? Like literally minutes, hours without any coal consumption. It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And as much roof space as we have, how many houses and then flat roofs, in cities and everywhere. It should be a no-brainer. And I just don't understand why we're not there yet.
Because we don't want to be.
And you know what? Yeah. I want to say, and in this, I want to segue into an article that we originally weren't planning on getting to, but I'm not going to let this one rest because it hits me personally. And what that's going to be is what I'm going to screen share here. Which is a little spreadsheet that I created.
Oh, no. You a spreadsheet?
I know, right? Not like I ever nerd out on spreadsheets. So there is a proposal in the Illinois body to raise the electric vehicle annual renewal from $17.50 to $1,000 per year to register your electric vehicle. Now, first of all, I want to make sure everyone understands that there are currently no state incentives for purchasing an electric vehicle in Illinois. None. So
it's
you can't.
Disincentive.
It's the what?
It's a disincentive.
Yeah. Well, and because if you buy an electric vehicle, assuming, depending on the manufacturer, you get up to $7,500. But unlike Colorado, where you can double dip and then pull something from the state, Illinois says, nah, I don't think so. Oh, you can't even, because I'm screen sharing, you can't even see me flipping off the camera. But that's what Springfield is doing. So what I did was, compared to the $1,000 proposal, a car that averages 35 miles per gallon, I'm just going to go with an average sedan. If you drive an average of 1,200 miles and gasoline average in Illinois is $2.70 a gallon, the gas tax is currently 14 cents. So you're going to consume 382.86 gallons over the year. You're going to pay $925 in gasoline. $129 of that is gas tax. So an electric vehicle owner is not paying $129 in gas tax. So when they talk about paying their fair share, it's $129.60.
Change that to 15 miles per gallon and see how also insignificant it is.
Just a second. Just
Okay.
a second. I'm building here. Okay. I skipped over the part where gas tax proposed. That's conveniently empty, because they are planning on raising the gas tax from 14 cents to 44 cents. So now the fair share goes up to $407 in gas tax. So that's a little more significant. I see where they're going with that. Now, the only way I could see anything, even at Chicago level gas prices, which is $3.89 right now in downtown Chicago, it's back down to 186, which of course is more than 129, but still not 407. But in the future, at 44 cents, it becomes $586. We still haven't reached $1,000, which they're calling fair share. This doesn't really, okay. So to Casey's point, let me widen this so we can see all the numbers change at the same time. If I lower this down to 30 miles per gallon. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm assuming that someone is transitioning from a standard sedan to a standard sedan electric vehicle, because we don't have electric trucks yet. I know Rivian and Ford are looking at them, but we don't have them yet. And so, those are usually 30 to 35 miles per gallon. At 25 miles per gallon, we're still not at 1,000, even in downtown Chicago. You have to go down to 20 miles per gallon. Can you name me a family sedan that only gets 20 miles per gallon?
A 1970
Ford F-150 with 4 doors.
Well, right. But I mean, it's not even a fair comparison. And it only affects those people who are in downtown Chicago. The highest gas prices in the state of Illinois. Everyone else is paying $2.70, and that's still only $712. Now, that's a lot more significant than the 100 and something, but it's still not $1,000. You're still raking us $300 over the coals. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I want to say.
Ultimately, what they need to do is just base it on the weight of the vehicle and the miles driven.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter what propels it. If you have a 3,000-pound car and you drive 15,000 miles a year, this is what you're going to pay. And
exactly.
If they could figure out how to track that, that would be great.
No, you don't even have to track it, because all you do is, and I'm gonna stop sharing here. So once a month or once a quarter, someone comes out and does a meter reading to see how much water or anything that I've used. Let's go with water. They come out to do a meter reading to see how much water I've used. That's all you need to do. Every year when you re-up your registration, right, you can go online and enter your starting odometer, your current odometer, and it will tell you what to expect when you show up. And when you show up, someone walks out and verifies, and they say, okay, you owe us this much money. You don't have to track it. The conspiracists don't have to worry about GPS tracking. You simply show up and show your odometer. They calculate it and they say, here's how much you owe. and you had the opportunity to look it up yourself, so you're not surprised. That's
That
how
would
it should be
fair,
done.
But then you're going to have all kinds of odometer correction services manipulating the odometers.
Okay, we're talking 5% of the population at most.
Not even, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I think because their argument that, it's wear and tear on the roads, well, a light vehicle, that, what was it, Mitsubishi shitbox called? The
Mirage.
Mirage. It weighs nothing.
It's the shit box.
It's not going to trash the roads like the Escalade will. So
Or that's
right.
my truck.
more.
No, you're exactly right. And it needs to be on weight. And I get that. It needs to be on weight because batteries do weigh more.
Yeah.
So, you need to weight needs to be taken into
And
consideration.
Tesla weighs more than a Corolla.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's no getting around that. So, and there's no arguing that. Weight is something that can't be argued. Miles is something that can't be argued. You simply put a price on that and say everybody pays this regardless of fuel. And you stop calling it a gas tax,
Right.
and you call it a transportation infrastructure fee.
Yeah.
Tony,
Road
how
maintenance tax or something.
how can we get this noticed? How can we tell the politicians this is not right?
Well,
Who can we contact?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't. But everybody who's in Illinois can go to the and I don't have the website off the top of my head, but you can file a letter of witness, it's called, with the Illinois Chamber, proposing or not. And you can type notes and you can put all this stuff in. And I've already done mine.
Can we get this
but-
this website and post it on the social media pages to let people
Yes.
know?
I will make
Illinois
sure and
friends.
share that. Yeah,
Yeah, we can
for,
do that.
for Illinois friends. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
every one of us, I think, have argued, and every EV and plug-in owner I've ever talked to has talked about our willingness to make sure we pay our fair share to fund infrastructure. We're not arguing fair share. We're arguing the fact that we're
Gouging.
being over-gouged. We're being gouged, yes. And they're using bad math to manipulate the general population. They're saying, oh, those EV drivers aren't paying gas taxes, so we need to, right. Just when we thought 1.5% of new car sales was a monumental, moment, now they're acting like we're 75% of the car sales, and it's ruining and bankrupting the state. No, it's not.
And is there any EV
So who wrote the bill? Big
associations?
Oil? Or?
Well, they may have written the bill. Unfortunately, it's been forwarded by a Democrat who is arguing that EVs are underfunding public transportation.
Is there an EV association that people can join in together and make a louder voice?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get that information and share it as well.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. I don't have the links and things at the top of my head, but yes, I'm on several of them, and I'll make sure and put the links. The links will be in the description for this video, and then we'll make sure and share them throughout our social media.
There we go.
Yeah, South Carolina is talking about doing something similar, not as gracious. They want to raise the gas tax, charge you if you have a plug-in car, and then they also want to charge you if you have solar. So they're going to get you no matter what you drive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a show with that. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you listen to podcasts like I do in your car, make sure and look for us. We're on Stitcher, YouTube. Wait, no, we're on YouTube now. Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes. Are there more? I forget. I don't even remember.
Slacker.
I said Spotify. Yeah. So,
iTunes.
yeah, audio, even tell you what, do us a favor. Even if you don't listen to any of them, go out and subscribe to all of them. Because it'll bump our numbers, and we need all the help we can get.
Take pity on us, okay?
Yeah.
We'll take it.
So I'm going to go around the horn. Last shout to the chat for show titles. Enter them now if you haven't already. Oh, yeah. Also, make sure and go to patreon.com/whatdrivesusshow.
Yes.
And for as little as 25 cents an episode, you can support us. And I promise we won't spend it on beer. I absolutely promise.
I might.
Maybe
But Tony won't.
Well, maybe I will. I just won't tell you. I mean, I'm not as honest as you are. But if you really want to
That's
support the
horrifying.
show, go to patreon.com/whatdrivesUsshow. Russell, you want to start the shout outs?
Me? Okay. Once again, thanks, Chelsea. Thanks to everybody who watches and listen. Chat room, I guess Casey's in there. Yay, Casey. Thank you. We'll be looking for a show title. Otherwise, I'm going with That's Another Tunnel because I'm sorry. I'm still laughing about that. Thanks. We'll see you. I'll see you next week.
All right. Mark?
Wanted to share a quick
promote your hubcap business.
photo. That's next week. But this week I wanted to put a shout out to the Waterloo Region EVA. We're getting together this Friday night for another meeting. If you're in the Waterloo region, please feel free to connect to us on our social media feeds. Let us know if you want to come out to the meeting. We'll give you the location and time this Friday evening. It's always a good time, and we've got a bunch of interesting subjects as well as a presenter that's going to talk about driving from Ontario all the way to Florida on the Chatham CCS network in the U.S. So it'll be interesting to hear their story. Actually, that's Eric Stevens, who's in our chat room right now. So thanks,
awesome.
Eric, for participating.
That is a great
Are those
picture.
all charging spots?
They are all charging spots.
That
correct.
is very cool.
There
A lot
is
of panels.
so much goodness going on in that picture right there, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Is that an e-tron or an ICE car?
That's an e-tron, an Audi
Oh.
A3 e-tron.
Wow.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
In the
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
So please join us if you can. Let us know, and we'd love to see you on Friday evening. Also, if you're watching this video now, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell, and also please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We're getting close to our 1,000 goal. We need you to press that subscribe button and give us an extra subscriber. Please do so.
I do want to point out that unsubscribing and resubscribing doesn't help Lee, but thanks for trying.
Set up an account for your dog.
Yeah. Pets count.
on a separate IP. So So for
All
me,
right,
I just wanted
Casey,
to point out my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. And I've got good videos on there for you. A lot of supercharger reviews, EV lifestyle, road trips, that sort of thing.
All right, great. And Paul, what's that on your shirt? What does that say there?
This one?
It says
Yeah.
Paul.
This says Paul, yes. This says Boulder Hybrids. So if you're in Colorado along the Front Range, we fix and repair hybrids and EVs, and we sell used hybrids and EVs. And you can check out our website, boulderh.com.
Awesome.
That's it. That's all you need.
I want to give one final shout out to a very special group of people, to Sylvester, Kevin, the Robinson Media channel, to Lewis and Perry. All of these are new subscribers to our channel, and we welcome each and every one of you. Thanks for taking the time to hit that subscribe button. And, oh, by the way, I'm the host, so I should probably say that's all we have for this week. Make sure you tune in or download us next week to find out what drives us.